Good morning. My name is Susan Sakosha Olson, and I'm from the Consumer Engagement Team at BCBSRI. I'd like to welcome you today to our seminar, Optimizing Your Mental Health. At Blue Cross, we are committed to health and well-being of all of our members and of our community. It's very important for us to provide you with more ways to stay healthy and stay active, and to get all the information that you need whenever you need it. With me today is Jeff Rodriguez. Jeff is a professional health and wellness educator and has been so for 25 years. In his role with Virgin Pulse, Jeff continues to concentrate on worksite and community programming. His passion is dealing with people from all walks of life. Now, I'll be monitoring the chat, so if you have any thoughts or questions, please enter them, and then Jeff will answer those questions at the end of the meeting. With that, thank you, and here's Jeff.
Thank you so much, Susan, and welcome to Optimizing Your Mental Well-Being. It's great to be here. Before we start, I'd like to make you aware that the information contained in the materials is provided for educational purposes only and not intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice. Nothing contained in the materials intended to be used as a medical diagnosis or treatment. And we always recommend that you seek advice from a qualified physician before you start new treatment or discontinuing an existing treatment. Talk with your healthcare provider about any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. So with that said, we'd like to welcome everybody. We're certainly glad to have you today. And what we are going to do today is review what we know about mental well-being. And the idea is to assess your mental well-being and learn how to improve it. Any description that involves good mental health includes both self-approval and self-validation. So those are some really important items that we are going to touch upon. As Susan mentioned, towards the end, we will save a few minutes to discuss any questions that you may have. We can certainly answer any question you have regarding our presentation. Some of the objectives today that we would like to cover includes what is positive mental health, how we build self-esteem, the mind-body connection, how we properly manage our stress, how nutrition affects the way that we deal with everyday situations, and that idea of gratitude and being grateful, and touching upon the benefits of having a positive attitude. By definition, mental health is a state of well-being where we realize our abilities, we cope with stress, we become productive, we make a positive contribution to society. So we can look at the domains of mental health as our measures of mental health. So they include the psychological well-being, the emotional well-being, and the social well-being. The good news today is that studies show that close to 20% of the adult population out there does not master all three of these domains. In addition, over 25% of us suffer from some type of mental illness, whether it's in the form of depression, anxiety. So I guess what we're saying is that it is okay. You know, we are not perfect well-being, mentally well-beings, and that is certainly okay. But what we're going to talk about today is the tools that you may already have, that maybe you aspire to have, Or maybe you have and they just need to be fine-tuned. So these are some of the things that we are going to talk about. That idea of enjoying life, being resistant, being flexible, and having that balance in our life is very important. Mental health awareness includes mental health disorders. So it's things like depression and anxiety disorders. Maybe it is bipolar disorder. Maybe it is obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. Eating disorders, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. You have a say in how others see you. So we know that there is a stigma attached to mental illness and mental health. Getting treatment for mental health means that you have the self-respect for yourself, both self-respect and self-validation to feel better. So that's very important, because as you're going to see, as we discuss this, we need to value ourselves. Self-esteem plays a big role in our mental health, and how we feel about ourselves also relates to how others view us. Certainly when we go through situations, if we relate this to the current situation that everyone is suffering from, it is certainly a rough patch. And by no means, I think that everybody think that this patch was going to be so rough for so long for most of us. But we are all in it together. The thing that we have to remind ourselves is that we will get through this. Maybe it's a situation where you're dealing with family issues. Maybe you're dealing with car issues. Maybe you're dealing with a work issue. But the whole idea is that we need to realize that it is a temporary bump in the road, so to say. And our self-esteem takes a hit from time to time. Very common. One of the things that we encourage people is not to take things personally. Wallowing in a negative lifestyle is a very easy thing to do. And you may know many people that you interact with on a daily basis that you catch that vibe from them, and you feel that sort of that everything happens to me kind of thing. This always happens. You know, you start hearing those types of things. We can get into a rut and even sort of automatically get into that wallowing, which is something that can potentially become dangerous, because we automatically flip on the negative button. So we want to remind ourselves that we will get through this. And when we do get through a certain event, you'll be better than you were before. As I mentioned, self-esteem, very important that we have confidence and that we are finding ways to feel good about yourself. And that's very important, because in a tough time, that is a real tricky thing to do. So you almost have to plow through and find that way that makes you feel good. And sometimes we have to dig back into our memory bank. So we take a look at some of the ways in which we make ourselves feel better. And one way is building self-esteem, being a lifelong process by way of self-affirmation, positive self-talk, where we're telling ourselves things like, I'm doing the best I can. I am lovable. I am a good person. People care about me. These are positive messages that we send to our brain that promotes increased self-esteem. And here are some ways that we can work on yourself. So it's those type of affirmations. Now, one thing that I am going to mention is the power of writing. So when we write things down and we put them in areas where we visibly see them often, it can become very effective for people. So we encourage people to create their own lists. And this is where sometimes we have to dig back and reflect on our life. We come off that stage and we sit down in the spectator section and we look at the stage and start thinking of all of those wonderful things that you've accomplished in your life. Start thinking about things that you are really good at, that are your strengths, things that you are proud of, accomplishments over the years that maybe you've just taken very lightly. That was a piece of cake. Well, guess what? It's probably a pretty good accomplishment that you've done that you didn't give yourself enough credit for. And again, we remind people to think about things that make yourself feel good. And we are encouraging people to do things that make them feel good. Some of the things that we encourage people to do is looking at maybe hobbies and pastimes that you really haven't enjoyed in a while. Now, I know with the pandemic, we are limited, obviously, but there's no reason why we cannot find things that have really sort of sparked us over the years. Think of some of the social possibilities and interests that we have with our current technology. So it's maybe things like hiking and fishing and swimming and biking, reading, knitting. We like to tell people everybody has their thing. Susan has her thing. Jeff has his thing. Yeah, my thing is record collecting. I've been collecting records since I was about 10 years old. Well, guess what makes me feel really good? Buying records, going to a store, looking at records. Even if I'm browsing. If I'm having a bad day, I'm trying to force myself to incorporate the things that spark my interest, that make me feel good. Not only have an improved outlook on life, but it physically makes me feel good. One of the things that we encourage people, not only with reading, but if you have not tried podcasts, very good tool to find nooks and crannies of your interest. So if sewing is your interest, if knitting is your interest, I guarantee you that there is a great podcast. And if you don't want to do podcasts, you can even look on video clips on whatever you're interested in. But again, there are podcasts and video clips on things that you are interested in. It may spark memories from years ago. Oh yeah, I used to do it that way. Oh, that really was effective. And it may start getting your juices flowing in terms of your interests. So you get back into an interest, back into a hobby. And if you have a current hobby that you've been doing for 40, 50 years, 25 years, maybe investigate other avenues of tools, like I mentioned with the reading and the podcasts, that you learn a little bit more about your hobby. Putting yourself first is very important when we talk about our mental health. Some things are obvious. So some of the things that you are going to see me show you today are things that you are probably doing that you have not discontinued in terms of your lifestyle. But as I mentioned earlier, maybe you need to be finely tuned. So things like eating a balanced diet and being active. And we'll talk a little bit more about the diet and about the exercise. But obviously, a well-balanced diet is going to affect how you feel. Wearing clothing that you feel good in, you feel comfortable in, you feel like yourself. For some of us, when we wear certain types of clothes, it really affects our personality. It affects the way that we sort of have that outlook of, oh gosh, I really don't feel comfortable. Make your room, your apartment, or your home special for yourself. Maybe that involves if you're with a roommate or with a partner that you share a house or an apartment with, and they have their area and you have your area, make sure that your area is something that you feel good about. Things that interest you. Help someone or do a favor for someone else. And that can be a very powerful tool. I know for myself, I've tried to get better at doing this at the local coffee shop. And every once in a while, if somebody's nearby, I just tell the person that's ringing me up, I've got this person's coffee. Now, for the extra $2 that I'm paying, I walk out of there and I don't expect a thank you, but it makes me feel good that I helped somebody out today. And 9 out of 10 times, if you do not expect it, it comes back to you. That favor comes back to you in one form or another. Another thing that we remind you to think about yourself is taking time out to do something you enjoy. You know, when we get into that schedule, that rigorous schedule, Monday through Friday, or maybe we're a person that has to work 6 days a week, so we're very limited. You always want to try to include something that makes you feel good, that you enjoy doing almost every day, if possible. And then last tip that we're telling you about, or that we're encouraging you to do, is spending time with people who you like and make you feel good about yourself. And for some of us, this may be something where we have to sort of stay clear of the negative Nellies in our life, because they tend to take that energy away from us. It's negative vibes, it's negative energy that sometimes we feel from people that maybe we don't like, but we have to spend time with, you know. So that is sort of a slippery slope when we get into things like family members, negative people that maybe we're forced to share time with. But again, we're encouraging you to spend time with people you like often. When we talk about that mind-body connection, we talk about the fact that your mind and your body are close allies. So how you think can affect how you feel, and how you feel can affect how you think. I'm here to tell you that people that are more active, that exercise regularly, feel better about themselves and feel better about other people. So again, the amount of exercise can be directly related to how you respond to stress, how you react to other people, how you deal with positive outcomes. And as we achieve those positive outcomes, it helps us deal with that stress. So there is a direct relationship between your mind and your body. And we'll elaborate a little bit here, as you're going to see. How thoughts and feelings affect your health by way of endorphins. Endorphins are natural painkillers. So when we think good thoughts, we are releasing chemicals that are healthy in our body. Now, when we think about our thoughts and our state of mind, we need to think in terms of how we use them to our advantage. When we think good thoughts, we feel better. It releases healthy things going on, healthy endorphins. And endorphins are simply natural painkillers in our body. So if you're sick, but you are hopeful, you have a positive attitude and believe you'll get better, your brain is likely to produce chemicals that will boost your body's healing power. That is proven. Negative thoughts and emotions can stop your brain from producing chemicals that help you heal. So there is a direct relationship between that negative stress and how you feel about yourself and how you heal your body. And we've heard that term, the power of positivity. So these are things, again, you have heard in your lifetime before, but sometimes we just need to be reminded about things like the power of positivity, staying positive, having that confidence that things are going to get better. We hear about that fight or flight stress response and how we react to stress. And what simply happens is hormones are released. Our heart rate increases, our breathing increases, our blood pressure increases, our muscles become tense. But when we are able to relax our mind and our body stops producing hormones that create stress. The feelings of stress ease, and you return to a state of calmness, both physical and emotionally or mentally. So again, that fight or flight stress response is a normal reaction that happens within our body. But our thoughts and how we react to it can control that positively or can control that negatively. And that's a really important thing to sort of understand, because it should open your eyes to the fact that we are empowered with how we react. We are in control of our emotions. And if we are able to negatively respond without sort of thinking, without thinking things through, or we're sort of just not equipped currently to deal with those situations, there are negative outcomes. And that's why stress over long, prolonged periods of time have a direct effect on our health. For years, many thought that things like meditation, yoga, that was things like snake oil, hocus pocus, just not really proven. And now the medical field has come on board. Doctors, primary care physicians have come on board to say that, yes, meditation does work. Yes, yoga does work. These are legitimate stress reduction therapies. And studies show both these are shown to work. There is no doubt about it. So we always encourage people that if meditation is something that you don't know a lot about, that could potentially be a new hobby for you, is doing some investigation work on how do I meditate? Let me try to give this a shot and see if there is some benefit from meditation and or yoga. In terms of exercise, if you are doing a sufficient amount of exercise, and sufficient amount of exercise, we will talk in general terms, 150 minutes per week. Okay, so you can do the math. You can squeeze in 10 bouts of exercise, and it can be cumulative each day. But what does exercise do? It improves the way that you get rest. So it's now helping that filtration system that goes on in your brain when you sleep. When you sort of filter out, as you're sleeping, you are almost like cleaning the filter in your brain. That's the way that you can look at it in general terms. Another benefit of exercise is that it certainly reduces our stress. It puts us in a better mood. I don't know any time where after a walk I've become in a really bad mood. It increases our interest in intimacy. It certainly increases our energy and stamina so that we are able to do everyday activities, doing the laundry, running chores, going shopping. And certainly reduces that fatigue that we may feel as we feel that we're going through a real tough situation together. It tends to wear us out. So we look at this like we're counteracting the fatigue vulnerability with regular exercise. We always hear about it. Drink more water. As we sleep, we lose water. And that's why we're telling you start each day with a glass of water. It is also proven, that the brain also becomes dehydrated. So not only our body loses water, but we lose amounts of water in our brain. And when the body is properly hydrated, including the brain, we tend to function better. We tend to increase our metabolism. We tend to burn stored fat more efficiently. We tend to think clearer. It affects our memory, both short-term and long-term. So we can't emphasize the fact that water has tremendous benefits, not only on our body, but on our mind. When we talk about things like food, we talk about things like avoiding caffeine and power drinks. Now, coffee is okay, but we need to counteract that with things like water. The power drinks, the more power drinks you have, the more sugar you will have in your diet. Unless it's an excess of over 2 hours for one bout of exercise, we don't really need a lot of the sugary power drinks. Don't skip meals or eat on the run. Don't eat to relieve stress. And that's a big one for a lot of people. You know, the food makes me feel better. And we can tend to get into trouble when we do that. Obviously, alcohol is something that works against your stress in excessive amounts. And as we know now, going through this pandemic, alcohol use, drug use, depression are at an all-time high going through this pandemic. In terms of a balanced diet, you want to make sure that you are including whole grains. So it's things that say 100% whole grain. Things that are nutritionally dense are 100% whole grain. 5 servings at least of fruits and vegetables. Things like meat and meat alternatives, we want to try to gravitate towards the leaner cuts of beef, leaner meats in general, things like fish, chicken, turkey. In terms of your milk and milk products, you want to try to shoot for the lower fat milk products and dairy products. Naturally, the oils, the fats, we want to make sure that we use sparingly. And again, drinking plenty of water to keep us hydrated. Here are some examples of some healthy snacks that we like to share with folks. A piece of fruit and 1 piece of cheese. Perfectly healthy snack. Yogurt or cottage cheese and fruit. Breakfast bars. Milk. And maybe it's 1%, maybe it's skim milk. Carrots or celery with peanut butter. Healthy snack. Or cream cheese to those carrots and celery. Managing your weight includes spacing the time you eat and drink throughout the day. So a general rule of thumb that we tell people is every couple of hours, you should be fueling yourself up a bit with small portions. Putting food on a smaller plate tends to work for many people. Drinking water before meals gives you that sense of a little fullness so that you're not more apt to overdo it on portion size. Eating foods that are lower in calories. So when a food is nutritionally dense, it may not necessarily be higher in calories. Okay, so that's something to really consider when you're starting to improve your diet, is looking for the whole grain, the nutritionally dense items that you're consuming regularly. Things like fruits, things like vegetables tend to be lower in calories. Anything that is lower in fat is lower in calories. Anything that is higher in fat and higher in sugar is higher in calories. Studies show that some herbal remedies may be effective, and they may support that body-mind connection that we achieve. That homeopathic medicine. And these are things that, as you have a good relationship with your primary care physician, you ask them about. You may hear things about things like St. John's wort or folic acid supplements. Maybe your doctor has recommended that you take care of yourself by way of additional supplements. We know through studies that fish is brain food. Okay, so those omega-3 fatty acids are good for our brain. It keeps our brain health in check, which in turn is directly related to healthy mental health. But again, there are many herbal remedies out there that are proven and some that are not proven to be effective. So that is a discussion we always encourage you to have with your primary care physician so that you are making sure that you are taking the right supplement, you are taking the right herbal remedy. The importance of having friends keeps you maintaining a healthy mental health, maintaining our mental well-being. It keeps us grounded. It helps form our foundations of dealing with issues, helping us cope. You know, we always need someone to lean on. That's why hundreds of songs have been written about it, right? We always hear those songs about, you know, I'm your shoulder to cry on. You can lean on me. You can trust me. Real friends and genuine friendships are invaluable. Learning to laugh is very important. It relaxes the whole body. How many times have we come out of a movie theater from a hysterical comedy? We feel pretty good. I don't think I've ever remembered a time where I come out of a movie that's very funny and not feel good, not feel happy, not just enjoyed what I saw and heard. And as we laugh, it increases our immunity. It boosts our immune system. It's releasing those endorphins. And those endorphins, those chemicals, are protecting our heart. So it's a heart healthy activity when we laugh. Research shows that as we express more gratitude, it makes us a more optimistic person. It increases our energy. It makes us sleep better. By being grateful for what you have. And people who discuss gratitude on a daily basis report higher levels of being alert, being enthusiastic, having more energy, having better sleep. You know, these are things that in tough times, it's very easy not to have gratitude. So this is something that we have to remind ourselves about. Expressing gratitude to others makes you a happier person. Receiving gratitude makes you a happy person or happier person. So these are things to really think about in terms of making sure we stay grounded mentally. Let's recap on some of the things that we're talking about here in terms of mental well-being. And as we mentioned, mental well-being is more than the absence of just mental illness. It comes from that positive self-esteem, the way that we feel about ourselves. And if I generally feel good about myself, I feel good about you. I feel good about my friends. I feel good about my family. Sustaining regular exercise, a healthy diet, hydrating, and engaging socially. And yes, in this time, that is like no other time that we will ever experience probably in our lifetime. Engaging socially is a difficult thing, but with modern technology, with other ways in which we can engage socially, it may not be what we've done in the past, but think in terms of a bump in the road. It is temporary. It will not last forever. You know, we will be back to being at family reunions with everybody there. And that last one, reminding you to practice gratitude and laugh as often as possible. It's good for your heart. It's good for your mind. That body-mind connection we're talking about is just so important. Some of the resources that we want to share, all wonderful, reputable sources of information. And that's what we encourage you to take a look at. If some of this type of information that I'm telling you about has sparked your interest, and you want to dig a little bit deeper and find out a little bit more about some of the things that we're talking about. But again, we want you to make sure that you go to a reputable source. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. Susan, I think we can certainly take any question. I hope you enjoyed the information that we shared with you today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was really great information. I feel like I learned a lot. I do want to give people a minute to type
Sure.
some questions into the chat if they'd like to have you answer any of them. Some of the things that I heard you say that kind of hit home for me, especially during this time of the pandemic, it's difficult to stay connected with your friends or your family or whatever. These, like you said, the technology is really important. Maybe have a Zoom coffee hour with your friends or things like that. That social connection, I think, is something that's really kind of tough in these pandemic. And that's why you see so many people with stress and mental health types of issues.
Absolutely. And that's a great point that you bring up, Susan, is the fact that, technology can be a little bit tricky right now for a lot of us, but there are ways to learn it. Okay. Maybe it's other people that you need to learn from in terms of learning that technology a little bit better. But things like Zoom happy hours we hear about sometimes with folks and friends and family, and just sort of thinking out of the box and on how we can socially stay connected. And that's just really important when we're talking about good mental health. That social part is a big part of our mental health. And as we know, to sort of keep it real and be realistic, it's a tough time that we're all going through. So the social part of our lives become a real challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good words to live by. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, but I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. But I'd also like to invite you to join our Facebook page. It's called Your Blue Studio. And Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. and at 2 p.m., we have some great exercise classes. Not only exercise, but as Jeff said, meditation, yoga, so the mind and body connection. But if you're busy during those times, all of our classes are recorded and you can go onto our Facebook page and listen to them at that time. So thank you again, Jeff, and thank you to everyone out there, and have a wonderful day.
Take care, folks.